Hey everyone, welcome to our first official episode of Mullers on the Move. We are a family of 5 traveling healthcare family who homeschools, vacations essentially every day that we're not working. And we are so excited to give you all the behind the scenes of locum anesthesia assignments, as well as homeschooling, moving with 3 kids, relocating every 3 to 6 months, organizing, packing, just life.
Good evening, y'all. I'm Blake Muller here. I'm the CRNA, Certified Registered Nurse Anesthetist. I've been a CRNA since 2012. We've been doing full-time locums now for over 2 years, essentially circumnavigating the country all the way from Louisiana to Maine to Oregon and to Colorado, all in between as well.
I'm a nurse practitioner, but I don't work right now. Just kidding.
I have the easy job as the locum CRNA.
I homeschool
She's got the hard job.
our older kids. Luckily, we are able to get our toddler into daycare as soon as usually within a couple weeks of moving to a new location. We were going to spend this episode just going over our backgrounds, like actually give us a leg to stand on for starting this podcast. But I think we should just jump into the controversial aspect of what we do, because literally that's what everybody wants to know. Travel locum assignments.
Talk about the locum controversy.
And just travel healthcare in general. I mean, it's just such a controversy. It was when you were still chief, and then we sold our own med spa. You resigned as chief of anesthesia, and we started doing travel assignments. Like, we literally reached the pinnacle of our careers in our hometown to move across the country with 3 kids and wind up in controversy with the rest of healthcare.
As we all know, there's always going to be travel nurses. There's always travel advanced practice. Well, travel nurse practitioners, travel CRNAs, locum doctors, surgeons. But it just so happens that with the healthcare shortage and the anesthesia shortage in general, the market has just opened up nationwide for us as CRNAs. And you can't help but deny that it's very lucrative for all of us involved in it.
Well, and that's the point. People, I mean, literally the number one question is, so I guess y'all just do it for the money. Like, yeah, we pack up our 3 kids who are 8, 6, and 3, and we move them every 3 to 4 months for the money. We took them from their grandparents, sold our business, resigned as chief for a paycheck.
It's also not really cheap to live across the country like we do with 3 kids.
We don't live in apartments, so the living stipend that is given to us or factored into your pay does not cover our housing. We do not do RVs. I need sanity still, and I know my limitations when it comes to our kids and homeschooling in the space that they are used to. And so we have chosen to do short-term rental homes, furnished. We pack up a U-Haul with our clothing, toys, homeschooling, and then just a couple of essentials for the kitchen, and then a few things that I would say just make our house homey.
And I still do have standards. I do pack up all of my hunting and fishing gear everywhere we go.
Oh, yeah. So
those things do not change. And that is some of the beauty of doing these locum assignments around the country. You can actually hunt and fish and do outdoor activities everywhere that you've dreamed of for longer than just a week at a time, like all of us do on vacations.
So I guess that's where we should start, is we were more than weekend warriors, because with you being chief and me owning the med spa, we were literally working. Oh, and for most of that, I still was working at the OBGYN office with 3 young kids. So we were working on our vacations. You were scheduling. I was contacting patients, answering questions. You were putting out fires. So when we got to the point where we were talking about au pairs or daily nannies, our oldest had just started kindergarten, and we realized we could not travel on your vacation weeks off because we had a school attendance to stick to. And so we said, what are we doing? We are running ourselves ragged. We are not spending time with our kids. We are committing all our time to work. And then we were vacationing and still committing all our time to work. And I think after, we talked about it for over a year. We said, we're going to figure it out.
And it's not about the money for us, because she's not She's not working as a nurse practitioner. She's running the household and homeschooling our kids and everything in between.
Managing our home that we rent out as a short-term rental, which is lucrative and helping us live in two places and keeps our house functioning. And essentially, we go home multiple times a year. We do a contract at home once a year. Louisiana is home. So for us, it is not all about the money. It is a lot more work, but we do get to spend more time with our kids. We spend a lot of time together. Sometimes we're the only friends that we have. So I'm not really sure how we're going to just continue to talk to each other on this podcast.
We're not here to say convince anybody that locum travel is the way to go. We're just here to tell you our story and just have guidelines to show you how we do these things and just giving essentially information out to everyone.
And how it is possible to do it with multiple kids, how people will literally tell you you're making the biggest mistake of your life. You're absolutely crazy. What are you doing? You're ruining your kid's childhood. And what else? All the things, which we just had a conviction and a calling. We prayed about it. We talked about it. We spent so many nights really diving deep into the pros and cons of it and just decided it was best for us, for our family at this time.
Yep.
Next year might look different. We have no end game.
And since we started doing real travel locums, we've been doing contracts anywhere between 3 to 6 months. Early on, it was every 3 to 4 months. So obviously we meet a lot of people in between, and I've met countless amount of people before I've even tell anything about myself. They're like, oh, doctors, CRNAs, whoever. Oh, I really wish I could do locums, but I got kids and I have one kid, he's 2. Like, oh, well, it's possible. I have 3 kids, 8, 6, and 3. So it's very possible.
Which our youngest has been on the road longer than he lived in our hometown, which is wild to think about. So he knows no different than just adapting. They're resilient. There are very many positives, and we'll never say that it has been smooth sailing, but we just want to be here to talk about controversial topics, to spread the word on how, if it's right for your family, how we actually manage to do it. The side hustles that I do, the good and the bad, the failures, and the actual ones that bring me joy and a little bit of income. Nothing compared, obviously, to a nurse practitioner salary, but finding my way as a career woman turned homeschooling mom. We want to provide resources for other healthcare providers, whether that be an agency to talk to, getting healthcare while you're on the road, travel tips with 3 kids, because it's fun.
We'll even talk about finances. We're going to have
that one makes me like have hives
guest
a little
speakers, owners of anesthesia groups, owners of locum agencies, financial experts, real estate experts. We just want to have a broad subject of just normal everyday life, although our life isn't extremely normal. The average CRNA, nurse practitioner, healthcare worker life, just to help guide along the way.
Do you want to elaborate on the controversies or you want to switch topics? We can cut this out, obviously.
I say we do just first start off with the so-called controversies of locum anesthesia. You can't deny that it is just simple, not simple economics. It is economics, supply and demand. Everybody's known since around this year mark with the baby boomers that it's going to be an extreme healthcare shortage. Back in 2012, when I came out, you essentially could have one job in town of Baton Rouge, where we're from, and that's where most of the local people who didn't essentially want to move away at the time worked at a pay that is way less than what even the average full-time CRNA makes today, just 12 years ago.
Side note, can we talk about how much nurse practitioners don't make in comparison to CRNA?
We can talk about that. Yeah.
Because we hold the same degree.
What are you talking about saying?
Side note, we'll make that another episode. I'll bring on my nurse practitioner friends to back me up.
You may need some backup, guys.
Well, and I think I mean, we've watched it now. You've been a CRNA for 12 years. Both my parents are CRNAs. My dad owns a CRNA company, and my mom was the director of a CRNA program. She's then helped so many CRNAs get into the, just be good practitioners and help others open schools. And I do feel like part of it is our generation is like we all want a unicorn job, right? Y'all all want to work. We all want to, not just CRNAs, work the least amount of hours for the best pay. And we compare. Louisiana known to have the lowest pay, I'm sure, across all boards or lower on the spectrum. So when you compare it to pay across the country, add in locum pay, like, yeah, it looks absolutely ridiculous. But you've worked how many companies in Baton Rouge and surrounding areas?
Full time?
Yeah.
I guess 4. Yeah.
Was the comparable?
Slightly more each time, but essentially comparable at the time. Just a little bit here, more in there. Yeah.
And now as the baby boomers are retiring because they are in 70s, and are more CRNAs coming out of school or less?
More. And then there's all kind of politics of anesthesia. We're going to delve into that eventually too, with nurse anesthesiologists, CRNAs, physician anesthesiologists, anesthesiologist assistants, dental anesthesiologists. That'll be for another subject, but yeah.
Oh, and them cush jobs at the plastics.
That's right. Work those too.
Those that good.
They say the average CRNA is 51 years old in America, and in 10 years, half will be retired. Half the CRNAs who are working now will be retired. Obviously, we know the baby boomers are essentially already retired or retiring now. Back then, they had a lot more kids, like our grandparents had a lot more kids, which means there's a lot more baby boomers than the baby boomers didn't have as many kids as then. As like they're always, our parents were a family of 5 or 6, a lot of us, or 8. My dad
Most
was
of our
family of
friends
8.
are 1 to 3.
My mom and dad had me and my brother, just 2 of us. So we have to take care of them. So I think there's always going to be, when this market hit just a few years ago, I guess, and then COVID topped it all off there. That was the icing on the cake. So since essentially COVID, there's been a really big anesthesia shortage in healthcare in general. Everyone's like, how long is this going to last? There's no way it's not going to last less than 5 years. I mean, no one has a crystal ball, but with all the statistics out there and how much everybody wants to use anesthesia and all the off-site departments, radiology, cardiology, endoscopy, the list goes on. I don't see how it's going to stop anytime soon. We all get the emails, we all get the text messages, we all get the phone calls daily. I know I do, nonstop.
I get them, and I haven't practiced ever as a locum, and I get it just both RN and NP messages frequently.
So I think the market is without a doubt going to stay for the foreseeable future, without a doubt.
Do you get a lot of backlash when you walk into a new facility and say I'm a locum?
No, never once have I. No, and
because I feel like a lot of people have a lot to say about travel nurses. We've always said like nurses eat nurses, and I've never been in that situation, but I feel like staff nurses feel that way.
For the most part, you're welcome. Usually, it all depends on what kind of facility you're at, which we'll definitely delve into later, of how to find the best job for you. If you want just independent practice jobs, they're out there. If you want big institutions where you can pick your own hours, 12-hour shifts, 16-hour shifts, those are out there.
Talking about the big institutions, we need to talk about the anesthesiologist role versus CRNA and that own controversy in itself, and how that leads to the shortage of practitioners in the operating room versus overseeing y'all to full scope of practice.
I am fortunate where I've honestly lost count of how many facilities I've probably worked in. I've probably worked in over 30, just hospitals, surgery centers, dental offices, plastics offices around the country that we've been doing for over 2 years now. I've worked a lot of sole independent practices. I've worked when I was chief for 3 years with a great group back in Louisiana called DPI, Diversified Professionals Incorporated. CRNA owned, in my opinion, one of the better groups in the nation, without a doubt. People thought I would never would leave that role once I started, and I can't say we did either.
That's the company that my father
Yeah,
owns. So that was like
so
yeah,
no
co-part.
nepotism whatsoever. But it was a great deal. We changed that group and me involved, and there was also anesthesiologists at that time. There now we changed the group from medical direction to full scope of practice CRNAs. Um, what was I getting at?
The controversy of
Oh yes, I've
anesthesiologists
seen. I've been
not being in the
experienced. Yeah,
operating
so I've been experienced in all roles, and then some of these travel assignments in, let's say, Tennessee and Maine.
room.
I've been in the two huge institutions there, and it's medical direction where you got to call and wait on the doc, and most of the times they push your own drugs for you. And it's not that you say you can live with anything for just a little while, especially when you're as a locum and you can make locum money, etc. Oh, you can do anything for this amount of money for this amount of time, but at the end of the day, it starts to drag on you. So it's all about what you want and what you can put up with. There's always outs in your contracts and etc. But those are just all big things to take into consideration, and I hope want to help guide you through. And with any questions like that, and we'll talk about it on here as well.
Which, if y'all have any specific questions, please drop them in the comments or shoot us a message on Instagram, sign up for our newsletter. We'll put all the links below. We would love to connect to people one-on-one, reach out, answer questions, and really get a feel for where people are struggling. Is it finding the contracts or transitioning to hospitals, moving with your family?
And there's a big stigma always that you know and there are a lot of anesthetists out there who think this way, that, oh, I just want to work 4 10s, never take call, never work a weekend. I want to work 5 8s, never take call, never work a weekend. And there's a lot of people out there, and that is why a lot of people are doing this. But that
Versus the people who say, I want to work 2 24s in a row to get my 48 hours, sleep for a day, and then pick up some extra
yes,
shifts.
there's a lot of people like that. We all know anesthesia is a very lucrative career, and we're extremely fortunate. I mean, we not only can you work around the country anywhere at any time, just about, you can pick your own schedule at a lot of places too. I'm definitely the locum that is doesn't just want to work 5 8s. I inquire about call, inquisitive schedules everywhere I go to try to. You just always want to make the most bang for your buck too. You're just leaving a lot on the table not doing that. And as we all know, as a healthcare profession, someone has to take the call, someone has to be there. Obviously, we're not, I hate to say it this way, we're not charity work, money talks on everything. So you just make the deal. You have to make the deal with the agency or with the direct contract with the group. I mean,
Which you and our relationship are the negotiator and stand
yeah,
firm on that. Like me, I'd be like, "Oh, guess I
yeah.
could do it." And you also, I guess, looking back at when we were both working, the downfall to being the spouse of a CRNA is if you have children, usually the one who makes the least amount of money is responsible for them. So it is difficult. I mean, especially we know plenty of people who are CRNA couples and they have nannies or a lot of family help, but while it is lucrative, it is a sacrifice to your family. Some of the hours, the call, the weekends, the evenings.
How about the 24-hour shift?
Talking about
48 hours?
the weeks that you have worked well over 60 hours. And not that we are not appreciative. And that is the one thing about being a travel family is we don't have the obligations that we do back home. And while we miss out on a lot, we don't have birthday parties to go to on the weekend. And we've made connections everywhere, but we don't have the obligation. So it is a little easier as a travel assignment for us to adapt to the longer shifts.
But the reality is also that,
You worked that way even when we were home.
yeah, and locums do make the pay is more money because it is just simple economics of supply and demand. When you're a very demand need, you're gonna the only way you're gonna get people is to pay them more. So that is why locums get paid more.
So some people say locums is ruining
I think
healthcare
we all know
because
that no one gets paid enough. I think for years there's definitely no CRNA that's been paid near enough 10 years ago in the whole entire country. Even the owners of the CRNA groups. I mean, OBGYNs don't get paid near enough. I mean,
nurses don't. I mean,
nurses
we
don't get
look
paid
at
enough.
what
I
did we
think we're
found my
finally just making, money that is.
we found my W-2 a couple years ago when I started as a RN back in 2010. I was making $19 an hour as a night shift weekend OB nurse. And we don't get me on my pedestal about how OB is not a specialty.
That's an RN.
$19 an hour as an RN. NP wasn't too much more than that when I started.
I mean, we may be making a good bit more money as CRNA as a locum CRNA and a full-time CRNA across the board nationwide. But I don't think that's the real money killer in all of healthcare. I mean,
Wait,
some of the
people
models of anesthesia are just, you know, crazy expensive. If you're running medical direction at a 1 to 2 or 1 to 3 model, I mean and then running that with a locum anesthesiologist, physician anesthesiologist, and then 3 locum nurse anesthesiologists, that is extremely expensive. And that is an issue in healthcare. So
you've worked
it
at so
is like
many.
an artificial shortage of anesthesia. There is a lot of anesthesia providers. It's just the models that are nationwide that are different everywhere that most people who aren't in anesthesia have no clue that even exists. I think everybody even goes into anesthesia has no idea it exists until you get there.
I can remember my parents talking about this. I mean, I was early, oh, yeah, I mean, 30 years ago, well, not that young, 25 years ago, talking about how the anesthesiologist hung out in the break room and really gave even breaks for them to go to lunch. Like I said, that was like 25 years ago. Look at what's still happening today. The anesthesiologists, which we know plenty of them, we love them, but the model of it is that they oversee a certain amount of CRNAs, so they're not actually in the room performing anesthesia at some facilities. So that leaves, if they were performing anesthesia, that would alleviate the quote unquote shortage of anesthesia providers, correct?
Yep. But then again, we're also thankful that some of these models are there because then we have these locum jobs. We have these jobs enabling
Period.
us to travel around the country.
I guess if every
like to do-
anesthesiologist worked, there wouldn't be so many positions available,
That's
correct?
true. But it's all politics and kind of government oversight mandating a lot of this. But that's for another subject and another day.
Maybe we can get one of the anesthesiologists on and let him give us.
Definitely. And there's a lot of anesthesiologists who work. The contract we just worked in Portland, Oregon, with a great locum agency named Crew Anesthesia. They got us on board there. One of the most lucrative for us at the time, without a doubt. It was a new anesthesia company came and got the contract from them and now instituting a MD CRNA model. That was all MD beforehand, just straight MDs. But they were running it 1 to 3 now in Oregon, and now running a model of 1 to 3 medical direction, which is still extremely expensive. But I don't know. It was lucrative as a locum, but it's going to be a lot of locums there for a long time.
It is wild to see the different models throughout the U.S.
Yeah,
I mean, we don't even have anesthesiology.
it's just culture change is so hard to change when something some way at a hospital or wherever for extremely long length of time, it is extremely hard to change.
Well, in Louisiana, I feel like we're always slower on change. And so we don't even have anesthesiologist associates there, correct?
Anesthesiologist assistants.
Oh,
They are
sorry,
legislatively banned in Louisiana.
Which, I
So
mean,
we're in Colorado right now. I've been to CRNA, like I said, for 12 years, and I just met my first AAs here. Really cool guys.
this is the first time you worked with them?
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought you worked with some in North Carolina.
Mm-mm.
Interesting. Okay.
That's another subject too.
Which part?
AAs and just
I know.
which y'all are welcome to join our podcast too, AAs.
Please. Maybe you can meet one at the hospital. I don't know. I don't even know like there's track in school, like do they
Mm-hmm.
have like, is it like an NP and a PA?
It's the equivalent of an NP and PA in that sort. Yes. I do think people in the past and maybe now too think about doing travel locums as they're older. Reverse what we're doing. And we had the thought too, yeah, when we get kids get done, we're going to travel the country and just work around the country. And they were like, why? What are we waiting 20 more years? And who knows what's going to happen? And in reality, why not do it with the family? So that's what we came up with. It is wild to think. Every time we tell our story, people are like, "Wow, that is really cool." It sounds like a lot of work because it is. That's what we're here to help you with. We probably want to be with our family more at that time. They have families of their own, and I don't necessarily want to be 2,000 miles away from them. Or maybe we do. Maybe we'll do it again then. Maybe we won't stop doing it.
We had talked about doing it before we had kids because I was graduating NP school and we were going to do NP and CRNA travel just to explore the country and,
Then you had to get pregnant.
And then God had different plans for us. So we started having kids. And then here we are. And I think, COVID and our kids going to school, just like we said, the attendance schedule really changed our outlook on life. And we realized there is no reason not to go now. They're not settled in school yet. We'll talk about on other podcasts about the controversy of having friends because they have no problem with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have a lot that we want to discuss. We're excited to just, like we said, share everything. We figured out we come out hot with the controversy of why we do locums and, just the money behind travel. We understand everybody's point of view. We are open to talking about it. We do not feel strongly one way or the other. We were perfectly happy in our positions that we were in. We just felt called to explore for a little while.
We made it our own adventure.
Yeah.
Mullers on the move. I'm licensed in 10 states, so we've been doing it for a little while.
We'll talk about how much that costs too.
How easy that is. Yeah, RN may be don't let any agency say, oh, it's a compact state, because it doesn't matter. RN's a compact state, but not your advanced practice license.
And then on top of that, we get the hunting licenses in all those states too.
I'm licensed poor.
It's a write-off. Well, not the hunting.
Yes, it is. We'll talk about that too. Thanks a lot, guys. We're Mullers on the Move.
Make sure to subscribe, like, and follow us on any platform that you're using. We'll drop the link below for our newsletter so you can stay up to date on when new episodes drop. And we will be shooting out emails with all our resources.
Thanks, guys.